All right, everybody, it's your boy Genius, G Squared Tactical, out here at the range today. I have my Glock 45 Koa with the aim point optic up here that I'm using for the demonstration today. And the reason being is because I'm out here not only to review this today, but also to zero this dot. And I want to tell you a little bit about how getting into red dots, having been shooting way before red dots were even a thing on a pistol, red dots kind of helped me understand what it was that for so many years I was doing wrong, and why, you know, seemingly some guns I would shoot so naturally well with, and then other guns I just couldn't seem to hit the broadside of a barn. And for years I would go out and I would buy a gun. I would go to the range with my boys, and you know, most of the right-hand shooters, all of them really that I was with, you know, if they shot off, it was always low left. But for some reason or another, me, I always would, if I were off, I would always shoot low right. And they never could understand that. I couldn't understand it. Or I would shoot center right. You know, either way I was going right. Well, for years, I would watch these internet videos or YouTube videos, and I believe in one of them, the description actually shows with your non-dominant hand or your support hand literally crushing an apple. Like, I'm pretty sure that was one of the videos I watched where it literally crushed the apple. And the way that they told you to properly hold a gun was to just kind of gingerly hold it with your dominant hand, right? And not really much more than that. Just hold it gingerly, you know, with your dominant hand. Get up high and tight, and then to meet your palm with the inside of your thumb here, and then bring your, you know, your support hand over, pushing your thumb forward to the memory pad if it had one, and then imagine, they said, crushing an apple with your, you know, support hand, your non-dominant hand. So that's how I would hold a gun. I would just hold it normally with my shooting hand, and then I would crush down on it with my left hand, because I was convinced by watching these videos that was the way to shoot. Now, I'm sure that my YouTube operators out there are going to tell me how stupid and how wrong I am, and you know, probably because I got a Glock shirt on, I'm a Glock fanboy and all that kind of stuff. You know, he goes home in the afternoon and asks his wife, or his wife asks him what time it is. He says Glock 30 or Glock o'clock. You know, he's a Glock fanboy. That's why he said the M&P trigger sucked. No, I said that because it does suck. But either way, I'm not a Glock fanboy at all, by the way. I'm going to show you something, and what happens, what naturally happens. I hope this picks up on camera. Whenever I'm holding this gun with my, you know, dominant hand, right? I got it just like as high as I can get up on it, just like I would shoot a gun. And I'm gonna bring my support hand in, right? I'm gonna try to move closer to the camera here. I'm not gonna adjust or make my grip tighter with my dominant hand. I'm just going to crush the apple, if you will, with my, you know, non-dominant hand or my support hand. And I want you to watch what happens to the gun. The only way I can stop that from happening is pushing to the right, as you can see. So that would explain why I was shooting right. It took me shooting with red dots to realize I was doing that, right? So the only way I can combat that, if I crush with my left hand and it pushes to the right, is to do the same thing equally with my dominant hand. Pushes it back to center. Let go, and it goes right, right? So that just didn't work for me. And not to mention, just that little demonstration there, much less coming out here and running 300 or 400 rounds, sometimes 6, 8, maybe even 1,000 rounds in a single day. I tell you what, grab anything, and just crush it like an apple for an extended period of time and see if you don't start shaking. I would watch these guys come out of the range at one of the stores that I would frequent that had a range there, and I would be wanting them to show me a gun in the showcase or what have you, and I would notice they were shaking. And I'd be like, what are you shaking for? He's like, oh, I've been back there shooting. I said, man, what was you shooting? A 44 mag? What'd you do? Run 100 rounds of 44 mag and a snub nose? Like, what in the world? And it's like, nah, I was shooting my 9. I was shooting my 43X or something like that. And I'm thinking, like, what? And I know what it was. It's because they're in there crushing down on that gun, holding the thing, you know, like it's a rabid, you know, dog that's going to eat them or something. Like, because anything that you crush like that and you hold, you know, hard for an extended period of time, it's going to cause you to get a little bit of shake. I mean, you just try it and see if I'm wrong, right? So again, holding the gun equally on both sides, gun straight, just simply crush the apple with my support hand, my support hand, and you see what happened. The gun moves to the right, so it completely explains why I would shoot to the right. The same thing would happen if I crushed it with my my dominant hand. What happens? It pushes to the right. So it's not a matter of, they say crush it with your support hand, right? Because when you pull the trigger, naturally the gun wants to go to the left. Not if you pull the trigger straight back. You know, if you pull the trigger straight back, this gun is clear, by the way, so nobody's going to get shot through the computer screen. But I'm just going to hold it equally with both hands. Pull the trigger straight back. The gun did not move. If you pull the trigger straight back, so you get trigger finger discipline, it's not going to move to the left. It's only going to do that if your whole entire hand moves to the left rather than just your trigger finger, right? So what I learned by shooting red dots and watching the red dot, and when I would go to pull the trigger, watch it move to the right, I was like, what is going on there? And that's how I figured out that's what was happening. So for me, again, not telling you, this is, listen, I'm not the standard here, you know. I'm not the expert on this by no stretch of the imagination. I'm just telling you what works for me. And what works for me is to hold the gun with both hands equally. Yes, I still get high and tight on the gun, as high as I can possibly get. That's why I like guns with extended beaver tails, but get up there as high as I can possibly get, right? And I usually stick my thumb up in the air like that. And then I do still bring my support hand around and I meet them there. And that's, you know, the way that I hold the gun. But both hands are supporting it with equal pressure. I don't have more pressure on one hand over the other. And again, with that, and I'm pulling the trigger straight back, there's no movement to the left if you're pulling the trigger straight back. And so if you sit at home and you practice that, like I've done so often, you know, you learn just to use your trigger finger, not your whole hand. So the reason that people pull left is because when they pull their trigger finger back, they also grip with their entire hand, and it pushes the gun, right? Just trigger finger only, don't push with your whole hand. And so for me, the whole crushing the apple thing, again, I'm not the expert. I hope this helps someone out there that maybe watched that video too and they have trouble staying on target, especially with shooting with just irons. The red dot obviously helps. I hope this helps somebody. I hope that you know, that for you it would also work that way. Now there are occasions when you're shooting super snappy guns, maybe you're shooting a 10mm, you know, something like that, that maybe with just your thumb here you might have to grip a little bit harder. But again, that's an overall grip. So if I'm shooting a 10mm, or if I'm shooting you know, I don't know, a 44 mag or a 50 AE or something like that, I'm still not going to put more pressure with my support hand than I am with my dominant hand, right? I'm just gonna put more pressure on both, right? So I'm just gingerly holding this, gingerly supporting it, right? Okay, so if I'm shooting a 50 AE or a 10 millimeter, a compact 10 millimeter no less, then what's gonna happen is that I'm going to crush the apple with both hands, right, equally. I'm not gonna gingerly hold it with my support hand and then crush it with this hand, because again, look what happens when I do that. The only way I can combat that is crush it with both hands. Do that for about 200 rounds and you're gonna have those shakes, right? It's gonna happen to everybody. I hope it helps. If you have any comments, any suggestions, what works for you, that's fine. It's not gonna change what works for me, but I hope that that does help. Thanks so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and as always, to God be the glory, and make sure that you know Jesus Christ is your Savior. If you don't know how you can know that, ask me in the comments or email me. I'll be glad to have a conversation with you about it. Again, thanks so much for watching, and to God only be the glory.